Alright, this next exercism problem is raindrops in C++. So the instructions indicate that we're going to be using the modulo operation to check if a given number has a factor of 3, 5, or 7. And depending on the factors, we're going to add a string to the result. And if it does not have any factors of 3, 5, or 7, the result will be the digits as a string. And the reason why we know that is because if you go to the tests, all of the results, including the number, are strings. Now on top of that, if you look next to the namespace raindrops right here, and if you haven't seen the namespace video in this playlist, I recommend checking that out before you continue. The raindrops namespace is used, and within it there is a function called convert, which has one parameter. And here we know that the argument is an integer. So we know that strings are going to be used, so before we start we have to include the string library. But up here you can notice that a file is included. It is a header file that is also located here. In here we will include the string library, and here is an empty namespace. This is what we're going to use to declare our convert function that has one parameter, which is an integer, and I'm going to call that drops for the raindrops. Now if I copy this, we're going to go here. We do not need to include the string because it's already included in the header, which is included here. Now we can begin to build our function. Now based off of these, we're going to be using the modulo operation, which is denoted by this character. And we're going to check for the first one if it has a factor of 3. So if drops has a factor of 3, this formula checks if this integer is a factor of the number. Then we are going to return a result. But we're not just going to return a result, because depending on the factors, these strings are going to be added. So what that means is we're going to have to declare a string. We'll call it result because they want a result. This one will be an empty string. So if drops has a factor of 3, what we're going to do is result, we're going to add to it pling. Now I'm going to copy this. I'm going to repeat it 2 more times for the other factors, 5 and 7. And I will change these ones to pling, playing, and plong. Now the reason why I'm using this is because we are starting with an empty string, and each condition will be checked for, and if any of these conditions are met, this string will be added to the result. That way, if somebody puts in 30, or the test, if the test checks for 30, the result should be pling, playing, and not plong. So these ones will be added together. Otherwise, if there are no factors of 3, 5, or 7, the result will be the number as a string. So if at the end of the condition checks, if result is still an empty string, then we are going to return, because return signifies that after this it'll finish. We're going to return, and we're going to use a built-in method to string, which basically just takes any integer and converts it to a string. And what do we want converted? This integer, drops. And then after all of the conditions are checked, and if this one is checked for and there is not an empty string, meaning if any of these conditions are met, we want to return the result. And then we check the test. And all tests pass.